Welcome to All Things Money with David Blain, a thoughtful and revealing discussion of actionable ideas and effective strategies to help you through the complex world of investing, taxes, and real estate. Now, with All Things Money, here's David Blain.
Hello and welcome to All Things Money. My name is David Blain, your host for the show. We thank you for joining us today, either on 94.1 FM WNBU or Cable TV 10 in New Bern. We welcome all our listeners and viewers on those stations. During today's show, we're going to talk a little bit about some statistics and some inflation and deflation. But before I do, I always like to give out our contact information. If you have any comments or questions on the show, topics you'd like to see us discuss, our phone number is 252-633-0107. Our email is allthingsmoney@dlblain.com. That's DLBLAIN.com. And you can always visit us on the web at www.dlblain.com. There you'll find information about myself, my firm, as well as archived copies of the show. So we love to hear from our viewers and listeners. In fact, a lot of the topics that we go over are the result of questions that we receive by email or phone from our viewers and listeners. So today, I want to start the show with a discussion of statistics. In our society today, people seem to be driven by data and statistics, and billions of dollars are invested and decisions are all made based on statistics, a lot of them government statistics on the health of the economy and employment and growth, and the government is making policies and businesses are creating business plans, and there's this huge focus on the numbers. And the media, is relentless about reporting, the CPI and the unemployment figures and the trade deficit and the budget deficit and, all these numbers, and people are making tremendous decisions. And what I don't see very much of is an actual discussion of where these numbers come from, what they mean. Are they even accurate? Are they distorted? Are they comparable to other countries? Questions like this, that when people see the headline CPI number of, 3% CPI this month, what does that mean? And does it really have any relevance? And so, obviously, you could write books and books on these topics, but we're going to delve into this a little bit today and see if we can't shed some light on some of these numbers. The first one we want to talk about is, before I do, there's a great quote that applies to this from Yogi Berra, and he says that in theory, there's no difference between theory and practice, but in practice there is. And so that's very applicable to today's topic, that in theory, all these statistics are signed off and blessed by some of the leading economists and statisticians out there, and so their theory is really good. But in practice is where a lot of the question comes in. So let's start with unemployment. There's two big unemployment surveys that happen. Number one is the household survey, where they actually poll households. Hey, do you have a job? Are you looking for a job? They get data of the individual households. They get it from the state unemployment office and things like that. They also have a payroll survey where they survey like ADP, who's one of the largest processors of payroll in America, and they ask them about new hires and people that came off the payroll rolls and things like that. And so the sample size of the payroll survey makes it more accurate and reliable from a statistical standpoint, but the household survey design is a little bit better. But that said, both of these surveys have tremendous problems and daunting challenges to try to track and count all the human beings in the United States of America that are employed, looking for work, not looking for work. It's just a very daunting task. And so a couple of things. Starting in the 1960s, the unemployment numbers were changed to exclude what we call discouraged workers, people who are out of work and who have met with so little success in finding a job that they just quit trying. And so this had the instant effect of making the unemployment number much lower than it is. And today, you hear all sorts of people that are trying to measure that, and so the 9% headline unemployment number, some people believe, could be upwards to 20%, 18, 19, 20% if you count all these people that have just given up looking for work. So a lot of problems with the unemployment number. I use the sort of informal unemployment survey as, you ask your neighbors, the person on the, lives next to you on this side have a job, the person on this side, do you have a job? So you'll get a feel for it by the friends that you have and the sort of the circles that you run in. Can also be another data point. So just be skeptical of some of these numbers. It's very difficult to reflect the true unemployment. Inflation is probably one of the worst examples of statistics that have some problems. It's a very messy statistic reported by the U.S. government. The main statistic that is reported is what's called the Consumer Price Index. There's another one called the PPI, the Producer Price Index, but since manufacturing and that sort of thing has become a much smaller part of the U.S. economy, that one does not have as much relevance to it. So the CPI, the inflation reporting, used to be based on a fixed basket of goods, and that, of course, has changed over time as in terms of what people purchased, that they would go out and they would survey basically, a shopping cart full of things, if you want to picture it in your mind, that you would need to buy at the grocery store or the household store. Of course, core inflation excludes food and energy, so maybe my shopping cart example was not the greatest example. But they go out and they look at different things that the consumer has to buy, and they take these prices, and that's how they come up with the inflation adjustments. They have the substitution effect. So when they started measuring inflation, say back in 1950, and there was some product that everybody used to buy that went out of favor or became too expensive and people didn't buy it anymore, they would substitute this basket of goods. They would change what was in the basket of goods to another product, assuming that as things get too expensive, people will substitute. For example, if Coca-Cola, soda products were to get too expensive, people would substitute tap water, that type of thing. So over the years, this basket of goods that they measure changes, and that has the effect of, as things get more expensive, they're removed from the basket. So right away, you can see a bias that's entering the statistic. Well, we're coming up on a break here. When we come back, we'll continue talking about some of these statistics. So for All Things Money, I'm your host, David Blain, and we'll be right back after a few short messages.